Hey, Melissa. Thanks for coming to
Huh?
Renna's Corner Conversations.
Hi.
We have a treat for everybody. Not only do we have Melissa, but we have little Miss Renna too. This is Renna's first appearance on Renna's Corner Conversations. And Melissa and I actually had a conversation a couple of weeks ago and technical difficulties. I shared on Instagram. It did not record. So some of the reels that I had around that time were really focused on some of the things that we were talking about. So we're gonna recap a whole bunch of things. Melissa's gonna help us really just um, know that there are resources and help out there, especially early on. So I'm gonna let Melissa introduce herself. We might have Renna do some things. We might just let her chill. I'm not sure, but go ahead, Melissa.
Hi, I'm Melissa, and for the last 20 years, I've been working with families who have children on the spectrum, as well as working in early intervention. And then now I contract here and there for various organizations, helping families with resources, teachers, and, various things around early childhood education. Hi, Miss Renna.
She wants in on the conversation.
Do you want to talk too? You going to tell us about you?
I left your
Huh?
talker in the kitchen, honey. Sorry. Well, I met Melissa because she was helping us when kind of like early on. Why are you saying no? I think Rena was maybe about three, and
Yeah.
Rena has a rare genetic disorder called Pitt-Hopkins syndrome. But we were also looking to get an autism diagnosis because we were kind of in, I don't want to say desperate need, but we really needed some additional services with some of the things that we were seeing, some of the negative behavior, like biting and hitting and flailing. There you go, flailing. Did you know I was going to say that? And just like the communication struggles really made it difficult for her. So Melissa really helped me kind of in that like early stages of trying to figure out services, trying to really get help to better, I don't know, just better be able to help Renna with her communication struggles and the negative behaviors that were coming from it. And Melissa and I had multiple calls like this, really. And
hmm
she helped me kind of realize that I was expecting Renna to like be doing this thing, but not knowing that she had to do this and this and this and this to be able to do that thing. Um, I think one of the things we were talking about is I was trying to get Renna to put this ball up here and in and down. Sorry, there it goes. Um, when she was probably two, but she literally couldn't hold a ball. But I was expecting her to hold the ball, lift her arm up, put it in here, and then push it, and then get the ball out and do the thing. So Melissa was a huge help for us, and that's kind of how I got connected with Melissa. And Ren is six now, so we've been connected for like the past 3 years, even though we, haven't necessarily had any communication with you regarding like what we used to do. Um,
Right.
but so that stage where I just kind of mentioned we were just really seeking help and trying to figure all things out. Um, we were on some waiting lists, and that is a big thing. So I don't know if do you have any tips on like for families that were there like us where we're trying to figure things out. We're on wait lists. We don't know what to do. We need help.
Well, definitely reaching out to local programs like the ARC, any of the local hospitals and stuff. They do have resources. Asking your pediatrician is really the first place to start. The pediatricians, they are supposed to be able to guide you, and if they can't, maybe they can turn you to somebody. Easter Seals is great. They have a lot of programs, but the local hospitals all have resources, everybody's trying to connect to everybody, because there is such wait lists everywhere. It does stink. And a lot of what I, used to do at Easter sales when I used to work there was work with families, trying to connect resources. So, just trying to, hone in on to what's around you locally. Um, Lehigh Valley Autism Guide is a great resource. They have a lot of different resources, and they seem to be keeping it up to date because I'll go on there and I'll be like, "Where's that resource?" Or, "Oh, this is new." So I feel like they're constantly updating it, which is really great. Um, I would definitely, check in with your pediatricians and see, what they could help you with. I know so St. Luke's has a lot of stuff going on. And even Good Shepherd, reaching out to them, like, do you have any resources you can direct me to? Working on, you know, connecting with other families and see what they're doing as well is really helpful. Like Renna's Corner. Brenda seems to be really up on a lot of different resources as well. So, she tries to keep in the know, which is great. There's lots of different resources around. I know it just stinks. Everybody's waiting for everything, and that's the hard part. But if you, in the meantime, if you can empower yourself to understand what, if you're looking for ABA, what is it? Like learn about it, and then our conversation the last time that didn't get recorded, we talked about the ins and outs, that people always assume that ABA is like really bad. And it's actually not. I mean, sure, 20 some 30 years, actually not even 20 years ago, probably like 30 or 40 years ago, it was really bad. Um, it's different now. It's really about working with the child and being at their level and really helping them with those life skills in the moment, and really guiding them through positive engagement, not using any negative, kind of, you know, really working on those skills that help them to be more independent, like, picking up a ball and putting a ball in themselves, those kinds of things. And then, when we were talking, Brenda was saying about how, Renna couldn't hold a ball before, so there's beginning stages of communication or just motor planning of different things. Like before you hold a pencil, they should be able to hold a spoon, and before a spoon, they should be able to just manipulate their fingers. So there's different skills that they have to learn prior to getting to that older, more complex skill. So, and I like to really work with families on, guiding them through that process because once you understand that process, it makes it easier to know, like, oh, okay, so I should be working on this first versus, holding the ball and throwing the ball kind of thing.
Yeah, and I think I keep muting because she's making lots of noise. I think also, oh geez, this is her favorite toy ever, ever, but it's very loud. So I'm gonna turn that off, unfortunately. Sorry, Renna. I know that's your favorite, and all the balls are currently out of it anyway. Her favorite. Um,
We were talking last time too, with her even just she was throwing a ball at you at least once or twice. Is that still happening?
yes. The one thing she's gotten really, really good at is kicking a ball. Like there was a nurse
Wow.
here from CareSphere, which is our home health agency. And Renna went down the hall, kicked a balloon. It was a balloon. She kicked it. I'm watching her. I said, Renna, pick it up, bring it here. She picks it up, plays with it a little bit, and then puts it back down and kicks it out into the living room. So I feel like she still does. Like she'll be in the backyard kicking a ball and she'll bend down and like push it with her hand to get it to a different location. Um, but I was going to say one thing that I feel is difficult for families like ours, especially in the beginning, is come here, honey. We are, I don't know, like we we're expecting our kids to be able to do things a lot faster than they
Right.
actually do. I sent my mom and my sister a video Renna went into her, okay, I was in the living room with the nurse. Her playroom is a safe place for her. So I let her come in here. All right, I walk in and she is in this trampoline, which has a net all around it. She climbed in the trampoline all by herself and was playing. She can't stand yet to bounce, but she went in there by herself. And my sister wrote back and she said, "Wow, it feels like all of this hard work that Rena's been doing over the years, we're really seeing a lot of things that she's capable of that we never imagined that she'd be able to do." Because you get to the point where you expect your kid to do this thing. You expect it to be quickly. It's not happening. It's not happening. It's not happening. And then you kind of, I don't want to say you lose hope, but you kind of think, well, they're just not going to do that thing. They're just
Mhm.
not going to be able to walk. Like that was a huge thing.
Right,
We were accepting that maybe Renna wasn't going to be able to walk because she didn't start walking until she was 4.5, and she's 6
right,
now. But
right.
all these little things that we were doing, that she was doing, was building on
Hmm.
itself. And because we don't see these things, or because they're not as quick as other children, or, what we've seen with other children, we just kind of think they're not going to do it. They're not going to be able to do this thing because it's not immediate. It's not evident that things are, um, like
Started
cognitively,
to,
we don't
yeah,
know for sure because she doesn't communicate with words. But when I say bring the balloon over here, and she picks it up, puts it down, and kicks it into the living room, she knows exactly what we're saying. It's just, I feel like it's a matter of her
yeah,
brain and her body kind of not always cooperating.
sure. Yeah, and a lot of kids do seem to understand more what's going on versus being able to communicate it or even follow that direction because that motor planning of, picking something up and throwing it or picking up something and handing it to somebody is difficult. It's almost like, when you think of something and you're like, "Oh, the cat's got your tongue." It's
Mhm.
stuck and you're like, "Oh, what was that? What was that?" And then like 3 a.m. you're like, "That's what it was." It's kind
Right?
of like that for, these little ones where they're watching us, they're learning, it's a good old saying, I learned it by watching you. They are watching us. They are learning from us. However, sometimes that motor planning piece of it takes over, and especially if there's sensory issues, like that comes into play, it kind of blocks it, from happening in the moment. I always tell families, sometimes, watch and see when you're teaching them something new, like keep at it, keep at it, keep at it. And maybe it's 2 weeks down the line, you're like, wait a minute, we were practicing that 2 weeks ago, and that's
Or 2
okay.
years ago.
Yeah, that too. Well, yeah, like when we first met, you were like, oh, they're saying she won't walk, she won't do this, she won't do that. And I remember, was it last year or? No, it was probably about a year after we started connecting. You sent me a video and she signed more. That was one of the first things we were talking about is, to at least get her to communicate some way with, using sign language or, pointing. And when she said more, or she signed more, and then like what, a few months later, there was like a sound that sounded like more or
Mm.
something. So it's gradual and it's about that process. Sometimes it's just harder for people to connect those the process, and the motor planning is a little slower, and that's okay, because they can get there. The more you keep doing stuff and you have schedules are great because it allows a child to know what's happening next on a regular basis, right? So they don't have to really think about that because that's already happening. They already know they're going to wake up, they're going to wash their hands, go potty, then wash their hands actually, or get a diaper change or whatever. And then they're going to go eat and, whatever. But that's the normal schedule. So if those little things that we're learning that are new, and there is a slight bit of unexpectedness to something new, the outcome, well, I'm learning this. I don't know this, but that's okay because I can do this, and it's about that process. And just, it is hard, as parents, you feel defeated when things happen and, it's out of your control, but, connecting with other parents is a really big thing, so you don't feel alone. Because it could be a lonely place when you have nobody to talk to about it, and it's hard sometimes because families, their child is the only one in the whole family that has, special needs, and the neighbors, no one understands but somebody else who's in your shoes. So those are the people you want to connect with on that level to kind of be like, you got it, because sometimes you do need that little bit of push, of, positivity yourself,
Yeah. I feel like it's been super helpful for me to get to know other families on a more intimate level, okay? Because there are autism, like local autism groups.
Hmm.
And you could be online and you could be a part of this group and you could have conversations back and forth, but it's so much more beneficial to go to things in person, have
Hmm.
conversations, make yourself feel uncomfortable talking to a stranger. You know, there's a Hopkins parent group on Facebook, and it's great. It is it is a great place, a safe place. People ask for advice. But what I started doing early on, I didn't even research Pitt Hopkins when we got the diagnosis. I started reaching out to other parents. But doing that was so much more beneficial than just being in a group and standing, on the sidelines and posting when I had a question. Because when you really connect with the other parents, you become more vulnerable
Hmm.
and you share the victories and the struggles. And it just is so much more helpful to really, really, really know that you're not alone. And
Right,
we've had meetups where we've gotten together and it just like strangers, total
right.
strangers. We live within an hour, kind of ish, all over. We meet in one place. And it feels like we just have known this family forever because we have our children in common and we have common fears and we have common struggles and common victories. And I literally on Facebook, anytime Facebook suggests a friend where I see we have multiple Pitt Hopkins friends in common, I say, be my friend. And some, they're my friend and maybe they watch Renna's journey, maybe we never connect. But there have been so many that I literally will just send a voice message through Facebook Messenger and we end up having conversations back and forth. Like I literally searched Pitt Hopkins and whatever you could search
Sure.
whatever you think. But if you can get more narrow than broad, I think that's helpful too.
Right.
And when you connect like that, that also helps you find more things. And I feel like I am just a naturally good connector, and that's what's
Hmm.
made Rena's Corner grow organically, I think, because I'm like that connector. I'm like that hub, and then I share what I find. Like, I'm not the expert in ABA. I am not the expert in feeding therapy. I'm not the expert in these things, but I could probably find the experts, or I know them, or I can lead you to events or organizations or whatever. Like I'm starting to realize that that is really what's making Renna's Corner so special is the connector that creates the hub that shares
Hmm.
these things. And that's why I'm loving these conversations because you've been doing this for like 20 years and I'm the family that's the recipient of your knowledge and
Right.
these things, but it's only been, around 6. So I learn every day new things that are out there and I learn every day about things. And you know what? ABA has been super helpful for us. We've had it for 2.5 years, I think. And yeah, and we've had 3 different therapists, but they have all basically learned who Renna is and her struggles and the things that motivate her. And they've really helped her in so many different ways, helped her with her communication when she gets frustrated because she's not
Yeah,
effectively communicating. Um, but really just it's about Renna and how we can help Renna better communicate. Yeah. So can you
right.
this was something that confused me early on. I learned about ABA in a parent support group.
Hmm.
Um, I don't know. She's probably like 2. And there were all these acronyms, and I literally was like, I have no idea what these people are talking about. But they mentioned something about biting. In their conversation that sounded like a different language, I translated biting, right? And I was like, wait, could this help Renna? Could this help me? And I kind of started researching, but I was still super confused. Like it feels like a really confusing thing for some reason. Can we maybe backtrack and explain what ABA is and make it more simple to understand? I know you did talk a little bit about it, but like what does ABA stand
Sure.
for? And then like all these acronyms that go along with it.
Well, let me start off by saying first, I am not a behavior specialist. I have had a lot of training and my background is in behavior. But ABA, applied behavior analysis, it's basically targeting behaviors and really working on getting those behaviors to be more positive, right? And helping with those independent skills. It's getting the kids to be able to follow routine, follow directions. So when they're in school, they're learning at their level, obviously. We want to make everything developmentally appropriate. And really just being able to learn to communicate, especially when they're frustrated. Because, when we were talking, when they're not talking and they are understanding things, the frustration level is higher. It's almost like when you're older and you're an adult and you're arguing with somebody who just isn't listening, right? And you can't get your point across. So imagine a little one can't communicate, can't get those words out to tell you what they want, or, if they're hurt, or, how they're feeling. They can't do that yet. So that frustration comes out in, many different ways, so that ABA is a way of getting those communication skills, or getting them, helping them to get those communication skills out, whether it's using, sign language, pointing, assistive technology. There's lots of different things, and there's also lots of ways that the kids can communicate using, like, when you have a speech therapist, they have different means of getting kids to communicate. But it's really with ABA, it's focusing on those positives. So when you're reinforcing positives over the negatives. So let's say a kid keeps dumping out toys, right? And dumping out toys. No purpose, just keeps dumping them. Um, and they're 4 years old. 2 years old is pretty typical of a dumper. They're just practicing, they're still learning how to play, right? But a 4 year old, technically, they should be learning how to play. They should be playing appropriately, not just keep dumping toys, right? So with the 4 year old, and working with ABA, we're going to not reinforce that negative behavior of dumping, but per se, like, okay, well, you dumped it, you clean it up. We're going to work on this together, cleaning it up, one and taking, and, make it fun. And then when they clean it up, it's like high five, and then, really taking let's say they're dumping the blocks and they're just not playing. Well, then don't give them so many blocks, hold the blocks back. Give them a couple at a time. I always like to put them in my like hoodie, and I would put them in a pocket because it's easy to pull them out. Some people use fanny packs or whatever. But being able to go, here, you want another one? Which one do you want? You want red or blue? And you're working on pointing. And even sometimes it's just about learning how to, scan and look at what item they want. Even kids with ADHD, they struggle to like focus and be in the moment sometimes. So, being able to know that, okay, like I have 30 seconds to do this. We're gonna take a choice, which ones you want, and then, give it to him right away. You got to be fast, but and then modeling like, oh, it's my turn now. I'm gonna build. Oh, do you want to turn? I can help you. And when you said about ABA and the therapist, getting to know Renna and getting to learn who she is, that's a big piece of it too. Being able to know what their likes are, what their dislikes are, and again, keeping on that schedule and following the routine. It really does help. And once you can, do that with a kiddo and they start to trust you and they start to want to learn from you, because they're like, oh, well, I kind of like the way she does that. I want to try that. But again, it's a process. So it doesn't happen overnight, and it is hard, to swallow sometimes like, oh, I just want it to happen. But at the same time, it's so rewarding when it does happen. And I know that you've had so many moments over the last couple of years yourself, like where you're like, that was not going to happen. I cannot believe this is happening. And you this morning when we jumped, or today when you jumped on, you showed me and you're like, look, she got in there. She got in there, like all by herself. Like that's huge. But again, she was probably processing that for the last, how long you bought that a while ago, right?
In
So
December. It was a Christmas present. Yeah.
yeah. So she's been processing for that long, trying to figure out how do I get in there by myself,
Mhm.
So now she's got that. Now she's going to move on to something else that she's got to learn how to do.
Yeah. And it's like almost every day. And something that I've been sharing, I don't want to say a lot, but like something I've realized over the years is by sharing Rena's journey, specifically on Instagram, because I try to capture moments.
Hmm.
It has helped me look at and look for the things that she can do instead of focusing on the things that she can't do. And that was like a huge shift for me because it can get really, I guess, negative in your mind when you're constantly comparing your child and you're constantly like fixated on the things that they can't do. And
Right.
once you start looking at what they can do and how they could maybe do the thing they can't do in a different way, like we
Right.
say it's Rena's way, you know, then that changes so much for the parent really because it
Yeah.
goes from this like doom and gloom, they'll never be able to look at what they can do. I never imagined this. Like, I really did not think she would be getting in and out of the trampoline so quickly. Like, I thought, once she can jump, maybe she'll be more motivated. We have a ball pit like right past it in the closet.
Mhm.
I heard balls. I thought she was in the ball pit. She was in the trampoline. I was like, what? And I'm glad I caught it because I wanted to share that, because
Yeah.
our family has been here on the journey too, and we just celebrate these little victories all the time. And it's just been
And you
helpful.
and you should because it's not just her hard work. It's also your hard work that you're putting in as a parent.
Yeah.
Making sure she has everything she needs, therapy wise. And it's now you got to work on having her, turn her little self around to get back out. That's going to be the next step is learning how to get out so she's not screaming that she's stuck.
I did record this one time. She started coming out and she fell out because she went
Yeah.
face first and she's
Oh.
like dangling and then she's like all the way out. And I'm like, okay, well, that's not exactly how you want to do it, but exactly, right? Like
Yes.
she has it in her head, but we have to figure out the steps and the motor planning for her to get there.
Well,
Um,
and when you think about, the fact that she did get in there and you're celebrating that, when you have a kiddo that can do, let's say you have something in mind that you want them to do and they're not doing. You can teach them that, slowly but surely, but focus on the things they're doing and they can do strongly, the things that can make them feel confident because they're okay with doing it because they know how to do it, you know. And then once in a while you can throw in that new thing to practice, you know, as long as there's other things happening that they are doing. Like for instance, we'll just pick like waving a wand, right? Waving a wand, you know, or like a ribbon, you know. It's rewarding because the ribbon's cool, it's flipping around, but maybe they can't drum a drum yet, you know. And then let's see, they could so you have the wand and you have the ribbon and then the drums. So we're working on the drums, but you throw that in there with the maybe the ribbon. Now we're taking the ribbon and we're pounding on the drum set. You know what I mean? Like
Hmm.
you kind of have to utilize what they are doing and then throw in something new, you know, to kind of help make them feel comfortable like, okay, well, I could do that. Why not? I can try that. You know, you don't want to give them something that's so hard that they've never even tried before without, you know, slowly easing it in and just maybe even just modeling it, you know, for a while.
Yeah. And that was huge that you did for me back then because I very much in just in general, I'm always like, just tell me what to do and I'll do it and then we'll have results, right? And that probably comes from like more of like a nutrition sort of a standpoint because usually if you have a food plan and you follow it, you lose weight. So
Right.
in my head,
No,
well,
you
I
don't.
made a mess. But
She's shaking her head.
yeah, but I just kind of come from that mindset that just do what you're told to do and you'll have
Hmm.
results. And it's just, everything I feel like is a learning process, really. Like I've learned so much. And this weekend, I forget what happened. I was at a vendor event. I was at an dad's autism conference representing Renna's Corner. And I forget what my conversation was with someone, but I literally said, Life with Renna has really taught me how to be flexible, how to not care so much what people think,
Hmm.
be patient. And there was another thing, but this mom brain can't remember all things. You're antsy. Are you ready for lunch? Can you tell us eat? Go. Oh, shit, hiccups. Hey, Randy, can you say eat? Are you hungry? Are you hungry?
You want to eat?
She's gotten really good at signing eat, like real good. Um, yeah, yeah. Oh my. But anyway, so we are down to our last few minutes. Um, I'm sure you have some things that you could probably share, some research sources and stuff. So we'll get those and we'll share them in the notes. But is there anything that you want to leave these families with? Something maybe we didn't touch on?
Um, I don't know in the moment I can't think of anything. I know, you know, I just want to stress that, you know, really reaching out to your pediatricians and asking for guidance and support. You know, they're there to help you. You know, I know sometimes you go into these appointments and they're very quick. You don't have a lot of time, but it's okay if you send them messages. They'll get back to you at some point. Just to keep up, you know, with anything new that's in the area, definitely stay in touch with, you know, Renna's Corner, because she definitely keeps tabs on everything that's happening in the Lehigh Valley, at least. So, you know, just, you know, connecting with your pediatrician on a lot of things is really the way to go because they can really guide you to the right direction, you know. So, because sometimes you can Google things and Google can send you astray. So, and you definitely want to make sure you're researching, sure, but you also want to know, you know, what's available around here because sometimes you'll find things and feel it's not available around here.
Mhm.
Or, you know, it's actually not a good thing. So talk to your pediatricians.
Yeah, no, that's great. Because I found that too. There were things that I didn't know existed, and everyone's welcome to reach out to me too. I don't, again, like I'm not the expert, but I might have experience, or I might have been there before, or I might have a resource that I know of, or somebody told me about something. So yeah, always feel free to reach out to Renna's Corner anywhere. We're everywhere. YouTube, Instagram, website. Shortly I'll have a specific email for Renna's Corner as well. But yeah, thank you so much for getting on a second time, Melissa. Lesson learned, right? This
Yeah.
is all about
And the last
real
one
life.
was a good one too.
So, but maybe we'll have you on again if
Yeah,
there's anything
I'd
new,
love
because
to.
everything's always changing and there's always new things for our families. So thank you so much.
You're welcome.